Have you ever locked eyes with a complete stranger and felt your heart detonate like hot molten lava? That was me, for the first time in my life. And honestly, it wasn't like I had never seen Michael before. I had, plenty of times. He was a PhD student at my university, filling in for my professor while they were away for a few months. But that day was the first time I stood close enough to him to smell his cologne, feel the warmth radiating off his skin, and really see the deep, rich brown of his eyes. It happened at a tiny stationery store just outside campus. I heard someone walk in behind me but didn't turn around. The place was always packed. It wasn't until I heard that familiar low voice, the voice I could recognize anywhere, the one I replayed in my head every night, that I turned. My breath caught in my throat. I instinctively clutched my chest, feeling like my heart might literally leap out of it. Michael looked down and I saw the moment he recognized me. Our eyes locked and for a second the world just stopped. Burning with embarrassment, I tore my gaze away, muttered something completely unintelligible and fled the shop. At home, I threw myself onto my bed, trying to calm the wild pounding of my heart. Michael had started teaching at the beginning of the semester. Twice a week, I sat in his class, falling harder each time. I still remember the first day he walked in. Tall, confident, wearing blue jeans, a black t-shirt, and a black blazer. He introduced himself as Michael Dean, the research assistant covering our course. He was perfection. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, strong dark eyes. When he made eye contact with me for the first time, I stopped breathing. I didn't hear a word he said as he paced closer, completely hypnotized until he turned away again. Later, I lay face down in my pillow, cursing myself. Why couldn't I control myself around him? Worse, how was I supposed to face him now after humiliating myself in that shop? Skipping class wasn't an option. Attendance counted for 5% of my final grade, and I couldn't afford to throw that away, especially in a course I already struggled with. So come Tuesday, I dragged myself to class, early, and hid in the very back row, hoping he'd think I wasn't there. Students trickled in. Then Michael walked in. He glanced at my usual seat, empty, and his eyes searched the room until they landed on me. I caught the flicker of a smile cross his face and immediately wished I could disappear into the floor. He passed out a test, weaving between the rows. I was the last one he reached. As he handed me the paper, he also slipped a familiar pink purse, my silly little rabbit-eared wallet, onto the desk in front of me. I hadn't even realized I lost it at the shop. Burning up with embarrassment, I muttered a soft, barely audible thank you. He stood there a moment longer, but I refused to look up. I stayed glued to my test sheet until he moved on. After the exam, students handed in their papers on their way out. Being at the back meant I'd be one of the last. I watched as Christine Emery, the department's undisputed it girl, stopped to chat with him, smiling that gorgeous, confident smile, tossing her hair, hinting she might need some extra help understanding the material. Michael smiled back politely, and my heart twisted painfully. Compared to Christine, I knew I didn't stand a chance. She was stunning, polished perfect, and could have anyone she wanted. Me? I liked my face, but mine was the kind of beauty you had to look twice to see. When it was finally my turn to hand in my test, I was praying to stay invisible. I mumbled another awkward thank you for my purse, dropped my test sheet, and we both bent down to grab it at the same time. Our hands brushed, and I heard him suck in a sharp breath. We both straightened up, and for the first time, I dared look into his eyes again. His gaze was intense, deeper, more serious than I remembered, and my heart thundered so loudly I was sure he could hear it too. I dropped the paper like it burned me, stumbled over a few words, and bolted from the room. The following week, our real professor returned. Michael was gone. Just like that. I graduated 2 years later. Christine had to repeat a year after failing some of her courses. And thanks to my strong GPA, I landed a job pretty easily at GT Lutted, a major company up north, actually the biggest player in its industry. It wasn't long after I started that I realized GT Lutted was owned by Christine's family. She would breeze in and out of the office, speaking rudely to anyone she thought was beneath her, and she was especially nasty to me once she recognized me from college, even though we'd never actually interacted before. Over the 5 years I worked there, Christine made it a personal mission to interfere with me whenever she could. The only thing that saved me was the quality of my work, which even she couldn't ignore. My job wasn't senior by any means, but I managed to earn a tiny private office, something rare for someone at my level. Still, Christine would pop in regularly just to boss me around with petty errands. I could have refused, I wasn't scared of her, but I valued my job. I had a plan. Put in the years, gain the experience, save up, and eventually open my own firm. So I tolerated the indignities, as long as they stayed on the professional side and didn't cross into personal humiliation. One Friday, close to closing time, I was deep into some work that needed my full concentration, trying to finish it before the weekend, when I heard the all-too-familiar sound of Christine's designer heels tapping down the hallway. I groaned internally and seriously considered hiding under my desk. A second later, she burst into my office without knocking. "Hey, Rosalee," she said in that fake sugary tone she reserved for moments she was about to drop a bomb on me. "It's almost closing time and I've got a hot date tonight. I'm super excited. Met him yesterday at the gym. David, a new trainer. Gorgeous, with abs that should be illegal. Obviously, he's just a fling. He's not exactly future husband material, but who cares? Eye candy is eye candy." She flipped her hair over her shoulder dramatically and continued, "Anyway, my dad just called. He needs someone to entertain a potential client tonight. And there's no way I'm wasting my Friday evening babysitting some boring old guy just to make Dad happy. So guess what? You're up. Drop whatever you're doing, take him to dinner, and butter him up a little. Use the company card, and make sure you do a good job. It'll reflect on me." She added with a pointed smile. I opened my mouth to protest, but she steamrolled right over me. "I already told the receptionist to send him your way when he gets here, and I'm out. Have a great night." She looked me up and down with a sneer. "And don't get any big ideas about this little office of yours. You're not management. You're not special. Anyway, it's not like you have any plans tonight. It's not as if you've ever had a boyfriend, right?" She let out a cold, mocking laugh, flipped her long, dark hair again, and clicked her way out the door. I sat there, fuming, the vein in my temple throbbing. Deep breath, I told myself. Stick to the plan. You're almost there. Soon you'll be out of here, and Christine will be nothing but a bad memory. It was 5:15 p.m., 15 full minutes after closing when the guest finally arrived. I had already finished and emailed my report to my supervisor, but I couldn't risk leaving early. Christine was the kind of person who would absolutely throw me under the bus to Daddy if she thought it would make her look good. And honestly, I still needed the experience and some certifications I was working toward before I could make my exit. There was a hesitant knock at my door. I stood up to greet whoever it was and froze. It was Michael. Of all the people in the world, he was the last person I expected to walk through that door. My heart exploded into a wild rhythm, and I felt my face heat up. I hadn't seen him in 5 years, but time had only made him look even better, just as breathtaking as the first time I laid eyes on him. Michael. I mean, Mr. Dean," I stammered. "Good evening. How can I help you? What are you doing here?" He stepped closer, extending his hand, locking eyes with mine. "I came to see the CEO about a potential business partnership," he said smoothly. "We have a meeting set for Monday to talk details. In the meantime, he suggested I spend the evening getting to know his daughter a little. Though, strangely, you didn't come up in any of my Google searches." He said it lightly, but still hadn't let go of my hand. I laughed awkwardly. "Oh no, I'm not his daughter, just an employee. His daughter, had other plans, so she asked me to fill in." Michael's smile widened, lighting up his whole face. "Well then," he said, giving my hand a quick squeeze before finally letting go, "I guess it's your job to make sure I have a good time tonight." He glanced meaningfully at my purse sitting on the desk. "Are you free now? Can we head out?" I nodded. "Yes, I have the company card. Where would you like to go?" "Wherever you'd like," he said easily. "You pick." I tugged my hand away from his gently, feeling my face flush again. "Sorry," he said quickly, a slight tilt to his mouth, almost like a half smile. "How about X's?" I offered. "It's a great place. They serve a variety of continental dishes and have a really nice bar if you want to hang out after dinner." He gave me that intense look again, his smile softening. "Sounds perfect," he said. "Let's take my car." We were quiet as we walked to the elevator through the empty corridors. Everyone had left because overtime was not encouraged at GT Limited. The CEO has a strict no overtime policy, I explained without being asked. He likes to send everyone home to their families on time. I hope I am not keeping you away from yours? Michael asked, glancing down at me as we stepped into the elevator. Your husband? Fiancé? I looked up at him embarrassed. Oh, I'm not married and I am not in any relationship and my parents live in the West, so my time is mine. He looked pleased. We were silent again the rest of the way to his car. He unlocked the car with his key fob and opened the passenger door for me. I stepped into his Skoda Elrock and stared at the dashboard. There were so many flashing lights and knobs, it looked like the cockpit of an airplane. He saw the look on my face as he sat in the car and shut his door. I take it you are not merely a lecturer? I asked. Oh no, he replied. I was working to get my PhD back then. I expanded on my father's business after I finished school and I'm doing very well. I do consultations. He sounded like he was trying to impress me. Wow, I said. You have done very well for yourself. Thanks. All that is left now is to find the woman of my dreams to share it all with. I blushed and turned my face away. I had tried to keep the conversation neutral, but I could not trust myself to talk romance with a man for whom I had harbored a secret and aggressive crush for more than 5 years, and who I knew I could have no future with. Michael was way out of my league. He was intelligent, he was handsome, and now he was rich. He was certainly an eligible bachelor, and I knew now why the CEO had asked his clueless daughter to entertain him on Friday night. I wondered how Christine would react when she realized her error. This was the same guy she had been throwing herself at while we were at the university, and she had missed a date with him to pursue David from the gym. Christine will be sorry she missed the opportunity to meet you, I said. Do you know, Michael said, I never got your name. My name is Rosalee. Rosalee Burton. Well, Rosalee Burton, he continued, I personally am glad that I got the opportunity to meet you rather than Christine. I looked at him, the surprise evident in my eyes. X's restaurant was not far away. We placed our orders and talked about work for a while. When out of the blues, he said, You don't know how happy I am to have missed Christine and gotten you. I have missed you, he added, his voice deeper and quieter. I'm really happy to see you. I was flustered, but as I looked into his eyes as he sat across from me, I felt calmer. But I still could not talk romance with him. Why was he trying to talk romance with me? What did he mean by he missed me? I changed the subject, commenting on the weather. He smiled again and we talked and talked. We were still talking when he drove me home, and we sat in his car in front of my apartment building in the warm summer dark only illuminated by street lamps, and talked until I happened to look at his dashboard and see that the time was almost midnight. What in the world had we been talking about for hours, not counting the time we had spent eating and drinking at the restaurant? Look at the time, I said. I'm so sorry. I really do talk a lot. I hope I have not kept you away from your family. I'm not married, and I am not in a relationship either, he responded, emphasizing each word and looking at me meaningfully. But you are right. It is late, and I have kept you from your bed. I should be the one apologizing. Let me walk you up to your door. We walked up the stairs to my first-floor apartment in silence. At my door, I took out my keys and turned it in the lock. This was supposed to be an official assignment, I said, but I have enjoyed myself very much. I had hardly had time to say the words before he reached out and, holding me by the waist, pulled me to himself and kissed me sweetly. He let me go and stepped back. My eyes flew wide in surprise. I couldn't move. I probably looked like an animal caught in headlights. I'm sorry, he said. I have had a serious crush on you from the first day I saw you in that lecture hall, and I have spent the last 5 years kicking myself for not reaching out to you. I thought I would simply forget about you with time, but I never did. You have been on my mind all this time, so I promised myself that if I ever saw you again, I would do 2 things. First, I would get your name, and second, I would kiss you. I just stood there, even more surprised, not trusting myself to say a word. Did I hear him right? How could Michael have had a crush on me? I was nowhere close to being in his league. I was not sure if I was not dreaming. But he was still talking, his voice deep with emotion. I have been wanting to kiss you since I saw you this evening at your office, but I didn't know how to ask you, and now you are about to go in. I hope you don't mind." He was looking at me with those hooded eyes. Then his eyes darkened and he took a shuddering breath. "No," he said. "No, I don't think you mind at all." And he kissed me again, hungrily this time, passionately, and I let him. It was my first kiss, and I hoped I would always be kissed like this. Finally, he slowed and let me go, leaning his forehead against mine as I held on to him, not trusting myself to stand on my own. We were breathing hard. "Go in," he said, "and lock the door." I nodded and did as he asked without a word. I still didn't trust myself to speak, and I wasn't sure if I was even awake or if it was all a dream. Did Michael just kiss me? Did he say he had a crush on me? I went over to the window, and looking down, I saw him as he stepped out of the building, walked a bit unsteadily to his car, and leaned on it for a few moments before getting in and driving away. When I left my apartment building on Monday morning, I found Michael standing in front of his car. I hadn't heard from him throughout the weekend, but I was glad for the space to think about my feelings. I could not deny that I was completely attracted to him. He was the standard that I compared every other man I met to. But I knew that there was a difference between attraction and love, and I was wise enough to know that attraction did not always lead to love. I had had a good think, and I hoped that I had become the master of my emotions. So when I saw him on Monday morning, as perfect as he looked in his white button-down shirt with sleeves folded up to his elbows and his gray trousers, I was able to look calmly into his eyes and say, "Good morning," even though I was swooning in my heart. "Good morning," he replied in his deep voice. "I hope you had a pleasant weekend." "I did," I said. "Did you?" He didn't reply. His eyes dropped to the road at my feet for a moment, and he said, "I'm sorry I didn't call you. I didn't want to put you under any pressure, but I decided to come and pick you up since I'm going to your office this morning." He took my hand gently and held it firmly in his. Then he led me around to the passenger side where he settled me in the car. As he turned the key and prepared to drive away, I said, "I hope you don't think I'm the kind of girl that goes around kissing strangers." Friday night only happened because we were both moved by, circumstances. "First," he said, "I'm not a stranger. We've known each other since you were an undergraduate. And if by circumstances you mean magic, then yes." He became serious. "And I hope, too, that you don't think that I am the kind of man that goes around kissing girls, because I am not a playboy. But I've been thinking about you for 5 years, and I've been wanting to kiss you since the day I met you at the shop where you left your purse." I blushed at the memory. "You have been in my heart for so long, but it feels like I've been dating you for 5 years, and so kissing you was the most natural thing for me to do. I'm sorry if I offended you." "Oh no," I said. "I'm not offended." I cleared my throat, trying to keep the giddy happiness out of my voice. "I just don't want you to think that I am easy." "Easy?" he said. "You weren't easy then. I don't think you will be easy now. Do you know how many of your classmates tried to get my attention back then? And you were the only one who wouldn't even look at me." "Oh, I looked at you all right," I said under my breath. "I looked at you a lot." Since we were taking a direct route, we arrived at the office very early, and there were only a few cars at the parking garage. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "You could go and wait in the CEO's office. What time is your appointment?" "It's at 10, actually," he responded. "I am much too early, but I have my laptop with me. I can sit in your office and do some work while I wait." I disagreed. "I don't have an office. I have a cubicle, and anyway, as the CEO's guest, you should sit somewhere more prestigious. If he were to hear that I kept you with me, he would not be happy. After all, you were supposed to go out on Friday night with his daughter, not with me. In that case, why don't you come and have coffee with me, and you can come back together at 9:30. I will tell the CEO that I asked you to do so." No," I said. "Let's not set the tongues wagging. Go and have your breakfast and come back at 10. You may give me a call after work and tell me how it went." "Yes, ma'am," he said. Then he leaned forward unexpectedly and gave me a kiss on the cheek. "I don't kiss random girls," he said quietly, "but I can kiss my girlfriend, right?" My heart was beating fast again. What was it about this man? Why did he have me so completely under his control? Am I your girlfriend? I asked. Yes, he replied. Then, taking my hand and pressing it against his chest, he said, Will you be my girlfriend? I would love to get to know you, although I feel like I already do. Let's date for a while first, I said, going against everything in me at that moment. He looked a little disappointed. Okay, I picked up my bag and prepared to leave the car. On an impulse, I turned quickly and kissed him on the cheek. Last kiss! Last one! I laughed, dodging his arms as he tried to hold on to me. He smiled and let me go. When I got to the entrance, I turned to look at him. He was still looking at me. I didn't expect to see him again until after closing time. But at 9:30, Michael walked into my office. He said, settling into the one other chair in the cramped space, I'm just about to go up to the CEO's office. I don't know how long our meeting will be. I thought I should come and see you before starting. We will probably have lunch at his office, but I'm taking you out to dinner after work, so wait for me. I will come after 5 o'clock. We were still talking when I heard the tap, tap, tapping of Christine's heels on the marble corridor in front of my office. She had a distinct way of walking. I always recognized her steps, and for a moment I wondered how Michael would react on seeing her. She had gotten more beautiful than she was when we were in school. I had not forgotten how Michael had smiled at her that day back in the university, and I wondered if he had seen her since then. He didn't talk as though he had, but even if they had not dated, I knew that Christine liked him, and Christine usually got the men that she wanted. I barely had time to warn him that she was coming before she burst rudely through the door, already talking. Oh, Rosalee, I had a marvelous weekend. David is so handsome and so sexy. We spent the entire weekend in bed. She stopped, realizing there was someone else in the office. I saw her eyes widen as she recognized Michael. Oh, hi, she said, her tone changing from rough to sugar in an instant. Hi, he said, standing up. You must be Christine, the CEO's daughter. He offered his hand for a shake. Yes, she answered. I know you. Weren't you at Hunting University? Yes, he answered. I did my PhD there, and I lectured a little. You must have been in one of my classes. Her smile turned predatory. Yes, I remember you well, she said. But your name? Michael Dean, he said. He withdrew his hand from hers. I noticed that she tried to hold on to it. He looked at his watch. I have a meeting with your father in a few minutes. I had better go up to his office. He turned to me. I had a lovely time on Friday, but this time I will take you somewhere where we will both enjoy the food. Then, with a nod to Christine, he walked out of the office. As soon as he shut the door, she turned to me and said in an urgent stage whisper, Is that the person that came on Friday? The person I was to entertain? Yes, I answered noncommittally, retaking my seat and turning to my computer, my face blank. She paused for an instant, then threw the door open. Michael! She called, her heels click-clacking as she rushed to catch up to him. Let me walk you up to his office. Christine gave me dirty looks for the rest of the day, and finally, just before closing, she burst into my office again and said, Thank you for covering for me on Friday, but I think I'll take it from here. Daddy's secretary says that he and Michael have agreed on the terms of a project they're going to work on together, so I expect he's going to be coming around a lot. So I'll take over his entertainment. Please remember that he is not your friend. He's a guest of the company, and treat him with more respect. I don't know why you invited him to this little cubicle this morning. A man of his class and attributes should not be seen in such a lowly place or with such a lowly person. I scoffed and gave her a wide fake smile. Do you think you and I are going to be able to compete over a man? She said, angry at my response. Please, Christine, let us talk when we have something important to discuss. You are the one that asked me to entertain him on Friday night. And I did. This morning he came into my office to say hello, since I am the only one he knows in this company. Maybe if you had done your job and entertained him yourself instead of going off with your eye candy, he would have been in your office this morning. Christine glowered at me. Don't give yourself airs, she snapped. Everyone knows who you are, an ugly little nothing from nowhere, and the fact that we were classmates in university does not make us equal. No matter what grades you got. She turned and stomped out of my little office, but before I had time to sit down, the door slammed open again. Let me make myself clear, she growled. I will be entertaining Michael from now on, so if he comes in here out of pity to offer to take you out, be sure to turn him down. We do not want to ruin the reputation of our company by handing such a high-value client to such a low-level employee. She slammed the door again, and this time I heard her heels clicking away. I felt a twinge of disappointment and jealousy when at 5 o'clock I got a text from Michael canceling our dinner plans. I went home alone, wondering exactly what sort of man Michael was. What sort of man would kiss a girl so passionately, then show up first thing in the morning to take her to work, only to stand her up to go on a date with a different girl? I was busying myself cleaning up my apartment just to take my mind of him, picking up the pillows and straightening knickknacks, when I heard my doorbell sometime after 7 p.m. Looking through the peephole, I saw Michael standing there with takeaway bags of food in his arms. He couldn't see me as I peeped at him, and I took a few moments to drink in his beauty and to still my racing heart. If this went on like this, I would need a pacemaker before long. "Hi," I said, opening the door and acting surprised. "I thought you said you couldn't make it tonight." "Sorry, I wasn't clear," he answered. "I meant that I could not take you out, but I meant to see you at home. I couldn't type very much in front of the CEO and Christine. The CEO was annoyed to hear that Christine did not entertain me herself, and Christine insisted on making it up to me. I could not refuse them, especially when Christine piled on the sugar in front of her father. So I decided to go with her, if only to let her know that I am not interested in her. I dropped her off after a quick dinner, and here I am. I would never brush you off, especially not for someone like her. Michael and I were now officially dating, but I insisted on keeping our relationship quiet. We had been dating for several months when, sitting in my office one morning, my office door smashed open again, revealing Christine's angry face. "How dare you?" she screamed. "How dare I what?" I asked, even though I knew exactly what she meant. I did not expect that my secret would remain a secret for long, especially since Michael and I frequented the local diners where I would most likely be seen by my colleagues, most of whom fawned over Christine. "How dare you sneak around with Michael behind my back?" "Behind your back," I answered, affronted. "Who do you think you are? You work for me. I'm the sole heir to this company, and you are nothing but a replaceable staff here. Do you dare to meet up with a man that I am interested in? And after I have warned you off? Let me remind you, you are nothing. You come from nowhere. Michael and I are going to be married. We are of the same class. We are rich. We do not hang about with classless people like you." I cut her off and held up a hand. "You listen to me," I said, angry at her rudeness. "I am too busy to sneak about and too classy to flaunt my relationships. I keep my private life private. If Michael wants to see me, then I will see him if I want to. You have no special rights over him until you have his ring on your finger. And until then, I have no intention of refusing his calls for your sake." I looked at her livid face and felt my job slipping away, but I had taken enough rudeness from this girl. I had never been afraid of her, but I valued my job and was only waiting for the day that I would leave. So I could not tolerate this outburst of hers. "Don't forget who you are talking to," she said, amazed that I had it in me to answer her back. "You work for me." "Wrong, Christine," I said. "I do not work for you. I work for your father. And the way you are going, I doubt there'll be a company left for you to inherit. Maybe then you'll get off your high horse." Christine was still looking at me in surprise. "You actually dared to talk back at me?" she said, incredulous. "Well, let's see how long it lasts in this company." And she stormed out. I took a deep breath to steady myself and sat in my chair. Then I took out my phone and sent Michael a text. "I've had a showdown with Christine. What's going on between the both of you?" "Absolutely nothing. She has been stalking me and sending me gifts for a long time now, and I have rejected all of them. Is she saying we are in a relationship? Tell her to say it to my face." He responded. I was satisfied by his response. I knew Michael was mine, but I needed to hear that he was not being taken in by Christine's wiles. But before the day ended, I was summoned up to the CEO's office. I considered whether or not to call Michael again and inform him of what was going on, but I decided to handle it on my own. My heart was beating with fear as I stood in his secretary's office, waiting to be summoned in to see the boss. But I mastered my fear and held my head up. When I heard him ask his secretary to send me in over the intercom, I got up and wiped my sweaty hands on my skirt and walked as confidently as I could through the double doors and into his office. Christine was perched on the edge of her father's expansive mahogany desk, with her arms crossed loosely over her slim body and a smugly satisfied look that made her usually pretty face look unpleasant to look at. She looked like a spoiled little brat, like a spoiled little princess, with her hair in a pile of curls atop her head and a little pearl hairpin holding it up. Christina's father was a grandfatherly kind of man. He had gray and white hair that was just a little bit too long and tousled. He looked like he was always running his hands through it in frustration. With a daughter like Christine, my hair would always be rough too. And his suit looked more comfortable than fashionable. Not that he was drab or dowdy in any way. His eyes were sharp, his voice was steady. "Good afternoon, sir," I said with a courtesy. Mr. Emery looked me over with a smile. "What's your name?" he asked pleasantly. "Rosalee Burton," I responded. "You are the one that went to school with my daughter?" "Yes, sir." "I see, and how do you find the work here?" "Oh, I like it, sir. I'm gaining a lot of experience, and it's quite relevant to what I read in school." "And the salary?" he asked with a twinkle in his eyes. "It's generous, sir, but of course everybody always wants more." Mr. Emery laughed. "Yes, no one is ever satisfied with what they have." And he turned and looked at his daughter as he said so. "Christy," he said, his voice becoming firm, "I am not going to fire this girl for you, particularly over a matter in which you are completely at fault, and I am not going to help you chase after a man. If you want him, then get him on your own steam, using your own abilities." Christine was dumbstruck. I saw her body begin to swell with indignation. It was obvious she was not used to being told no by her father. The CEO dismissed me with a smile and a wave of his hand. As I left, I heard Christine behind me, her voice raised in anger and humiliation, beginning to yell at her father. The secretary gave me a conspirational wink as I passed by. In a few days, however, I realized that the battle was not won because Christine and her cronies in the office had begun to make life unbearable for me. Suddenly, my supervisor was no longer satisfied with the quality of my work. He began to find faults in all my reports and forced me to review documents several times until the deadline for submission was passed. It wasn't long before work in the entire department was suffering and all the blame was placed at my feet. Rumors also began to spread that I was trying to sabotage the company by delaying work in order to show my loyalty to Michael, so he could sue the company for a large sum. The rumors said that I had to resort to such tactics because ordinarily he would not even look at me since I was so unattractive. I could bear any taunts, and I could defend myself against my supervisor, but I drew the line at any disparaging words against Michael and the reputation of his company. So I cornered Christine in the cafeteria one afternoon. "What do you mean by spreading these rumors, Christine?" I said quietly, hoping to have a quick conversation. "I thought you liked Michael. You boasted to me that you would marry him, and now you are trying to ruin his name." "You are the one ruining his name, Rosalee," she spat with a malicious glint in her eye. "You are the one chasing after him all over the town, trying to get his attention. And now you are putting the whole company at risk by giving him an upper hand in this deal because you know that you cannot get him any other way. But let me tell you, Rosalee, you are too ugly to get a man like him, and he is merely using you to pass the time." She had raised her voice, and other staff members had begun to gather around us, and her cronies among them began to jeer at me. "Look at her cheap dress," they said. "She earns so much, but she is so stingy that she does not buy designer clothes to look presentable. That is why she needs to hide away in that little office." "Oh," said Christine, "she probably uses her money to buy men's favor in order to get some male attention." In a few moments, I was surrounded by staff members, hurling abuse at me. I couldn't respond to any of them. I couldn't defend myself. Someone tugged at my blouse, another at my skirt, all the while wondering how a person like me could ever aspire to a man like Michael. I began to feel scared. This was turning into a mob. If they continued like this, someone would soon be caught up in the emotions of the group and actually hurt me. "Christine!" I raised my voice over the din of the crowd. "Stop this!" "I will show you," she said, and immediately grabbed at my shirt. I was quick enough to turn slightly, so she actually caught hold of my sleeve, and she pulled it so that it ripped at the shoulder, and in the process I stumbled forward into her, and we ended up in a jumbled heap on the ground. I felt hands on me as one or two of her friends dragged me off her, and I yelped in pain as one of them used the opportunity to grab my hair. Suddenly the raised voices became subdued, and the hands released me. In my confusion, I stumbled, but I felt strong arms support me and hold me up. I looked up into Michael's face. Christine saw him too. Her plaintive whine came from where she was still sitting on the floor, suddenly looking tragic. "Michael, oh Michael," she wailed. "I'm so happy to see you. Please help me. Look what Rosalee has done. See how she has pushed me to the floor and twisted my ankle." The tears began to well up in her eyes as she put on a convincing show. "Did she push you?" Michael asked quietly. "Oh, she did, and all because I was trying to advise her about her poor job performance, and for spreading rumors about you in the office." "Really?" said Michael in a neutral tone. "What did she say?" Tears were now pouring down Christine's face. "She said that she can do what she wants because she has a strong backer." In her performance, she had not realized that not only was Michael not helping her up, he had slipped his arm around my waist and was holding me close. He looked down at me and asked lovingly, "I thought we agreed that we would not boast about our relationship in the office, sweetheart." I looked into his eyes and tried to smile. I didn't, but they found out anyway. Christine's eyes popped open. "Michael, dear," she said, "won't you help me up? I seem to have twisted my foot and it really hurts." He looked at her coldly, then looking around, he said to everyone, "Rosalee is my girlfriend. We met 6 years ago when we were at the university, and we began a long-distance relationship which we continued when I came into this city. She does not need to sabotage this company to get my love. She has had it for 6 years, and she will have it forever. She is more beautiful in body and spirit than any random person who has to depend on money and surgery for her looks." There was an audible gasp, and several eyes turned to look at Christine, whose mouth was also now open with a blush deepening across her cheeks and ears. I tried now to pull away from Michael, but he resisted. The show was not over. He turned to me and pulled me closer, then planted a kiss on my lips. I did not resist. "Go and get your bag," he said. "Let's go home." As we turned away, several people also turned away from Christine. I heard whispered comments. If they have been dating for 6 years, then she could not have been trying to sabotage the company to get his attention. She must have a bright star to have caught such a man. Did Christine actually have plastic surgery? I've always wondered about her nose, and she doesn't look anything like her parents. Michael took off his jacket and put it around my shoulders as we walked out of the office. Now they really have something to talk about. He was still angry. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. But how did you know about the rumors?" "I've made friends here. They told me what Christine has been saying about you. I just never thought that she would be so bold as to attack you physically. I wish you would leave this job and come and work with me. You have taken your exams? Why start a whole new company? Come and work with me." After this fiasco, the CEO transferred Christine to another city where we continued to hear about her escapades, and her friends who had spread the rumors were fired from the company for reducing company morale. My supervisor was demoted and life continued as usual. Our wedding was a small but beautiful affair, held in the sprawling garden behind my parents' home, under an arch of fresh white roses and twinkling fairy lights. The evening air was warm and fragrant, and the sound of laughter and clinking glasses filled the space as our closest family and friends celebrated with us. When I walked down the makeshift aisle in a simple lace dress, my heart thudding wildly, Michael's gaze locked onto mine with such intensity that everything and everyone else disappeared. It was just him and me. It had always been just him and me. After the ceremony during our first dance, Michael whispered against my ear, "I told you I'd love you forever. This is just the beginning." and it truly was. Married life with Michael was a dream I hadn't dared to hope for. We were partners in every sense. At work, where he trusted me to handle important projects and even lead teams. At home, where we built a peaceful, laughter-filled life together. And in our hearts, where our bond only deepened with every shared sunrise and every whispered goodnight. Christine faded into a distant memory, her tantrums and jealousy no longer able to reach us. Sometimes we would hear vague news about her, another scandal, another broken engagement, but it no longer stirred any anger or pain in me. Instead, I only felt a quiet pity for a girl who had never learned that real love couldn't be bought or forced. As the years rolled by, Michael and I grew stronger. He took me to the places I had once only dreamed of: Paris, Venice, Tokyo. We bought a home with wide open windows and a garden where I planted wildflowers that spilled color into the yard every spring. One crisp autumn afternoon, as the golden leaves swirled around our feet, Michael knelt down again, this time not with a ring, but with a small velvet box containing a delicate gold necklace shaped like a key. "You've always had the key to my heart," he said. "Now I want you to have the key to everything else." Tears sprang to my eyes as I let him clasp it around my neck, and as I leaned in to kiss him, the world again melted away, just like the first time he kissed me at my door. And somehow, against all odds, forever was exactly what we had found.
If you liked this story, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps others find the channel. Thanks.